All right, guys. They're from Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds, with Rachel from Creatures of Vathis, and take two, maybe. We made
Yeah.
some adjustments to see if we can't get it back up. We are trying to do battle with the gremlins in the machine. So
The
it's
internet monsters.
exactly, the
Yeah.
internet monsters. Okay, so it looks like we're up. We will know shortly. All right, where do we leave off? Now that is the question.
We were talking about Kickstarter stuff, and I was just saying how it's such a crazy roller coaster. The way Kickstarter works, and yeah, it's been an experience. The first time was an experience, and this has been an experience. So
So what is some of your favorite fluff lore stories from the world? What is the campaign setting itself called again? The
it's
world
Zodiac Empires. The
Zodiac
world,
Empires.
yeah. So it's the Zodiac Empires campaign setting, and the world itself is called Vathis, and it's called the Zodiac Empires because the big entities in our setting that kind of gave birth metaphorically to the deities and uh, the keepers of fate are the zodiacs, and they're a series of dragons, and they can impart kind of their own blessing and powers on the mortals of the world, and those are called the star called. And a lot of the very influential leaders and shakers and movers in the world, the kings and rulers and things like that, they tend to be star called. So it's sort of the zodiac empires in a way.
So okay, so you're doing a lot with astrology in there then.
A little bit. It kind of has an overarching sort of role there. But the zodiacs, they don't really interact a lot, so they impart their star call, they impart their sigils on people, but otherwise they're very neutral. They're way less involved than the deities. You just kind of know they exist, and yeah.
So creatures of Vathis. Is there any kind of like overarching theme with the monsters, or they're kind of just like a mishmash of what you guys have used in your campaign setting?
We tried to make a varied group, so we wanted, our scary, our cutes, our terrifying, our large, our small. But our theme with this book is these are creatures that you're mostly going to find within the nation's borders. So our goal for book two, and we do want to do a book two, is they would be the creatures that are more outside of the national borders, instead of some of those really dangerous sort of wide open spaces and regions. So the creatures in this book, they're generally lower level CR. We do have some higher, strong, big baddies in the book, but for the most part, it's things that, under level 15 probably is what we're going for. You're not going to have this crazy, horrifically monster inside a national border there. But we have the books separated by different types. We introduced 4 new types, and they have their own template and their own sort of lore placed in our world. So we wanted to introduce those. Then we have our traditional beasts, monsters, magical, non-magical, kind of the whole thing.
So Corey wants to know what is the most terrifying creature you've created, or that's in the book.
I don't know if it's the most terrifying, but I really like. We call him the Squiggle Man, and it's the Shattered Vastborn, and he's in the text for the Forsaken in the Kickstarter there, and he's got a whole bunch of mouths and eyes, and he's like tentacles. And one of the abilities that he has is he can kind of grab you and like pull you into his mouth, and one of his mouths, and then he just like eats you from all over and from the inside with all of his crazy mouths. So he's pretty horrific. I don't want to encounter one of him at all. Yeah.
John Gleeman says the tentacle horror thing on the cover looks neat.
Yeah, that's the Squiggle Man. And we love him. He has our own, he's got that little affectionate nickname there. So the difference between the one on the cover and the one in the body of the Kickstarter is the one in the body of the Kickstarter was done by Chris Stoll, but we used Mo for the cover, and he sort of took a little bit of his own license with a lot of the descriptions and stuff, and we wanted to show the different artistic representations of the creatures. So they're the same thing at heart, but yeah, it's horrifying. I don't want to fight one.
Your old pal Greeny, you talked about how the world is run by magical crystal sources now. In Pathfinder, there's holy and unholy water. Is there light and dark versions of the magical crystal power source?
I don't think there is at the moment. We don't have it organized like that. So there is an Alarian Eldria, and it's sort of blue in color, and it has different abilities from the red type, which is called Vaedra Eldria. And they're both very volatile substances. Vaedra is worse. Vaedra is what we use. It's what powers our weaponry. So we do have firearms, and they are Vaedra-powered firearms. So it's more explosive. It has more utility in arms and weaponry and things like that. That's definitely probably the one you don't really want to come in contact with. And neither of them are sort of fit for human life. They're toxic to the mortals of the world. So if you come across an Eldria field or something like that, it's not a good place to be. You don't want to go there. There's a corporation that kind of refines the Eldria and makes it safe and makes it a usable resource in our technology.
So instead of like black powder or bullets, I'm seeing in my mind, I'm conjuring lasers.
Kind of. So the Vaedra crystal is refined, and it's made into like an explosive sort of powder, and then that's used. But in the raw essence, it's very dangerous, very volatile. There is a corporation that makes that safer and makes it a power source.
All right, you've been playing in this game for like nine years.
Yeah.
What's the craziest mishap that's happened with that stuff? Intentional or unintentional? Have you had your version of Chernobyl?
I don't think we've actually had like a complete meltdown in a game based on it. We have run into it. It has been a substance. In the game that we're actually playing now, our Pathfinder game, so we're on our version of the Feywild called the Vibrant. And Eldria doesn't exist there, and we're not sure how it would grow and how it would react and how it would be kind of harvested and cultivated, how the Vibrant's essence would affect it. Would it make it more volatile? Would it completely kind of take over? How would that react there? So we're there on the Vibrant, and we just actually confiscated like a whole shipment of Vaedric weaponry. So someone has been bringing these weapons over to the Vibrants to kind of give to the Fae, and I think the last thing we need are Fae with guns. So especially magic explosive guns that might be significantly more volatile on their plane of existence. So that's something that we're currently doing on our Saturday game, and I don't know how it might end. I mean, it might end in explosions and a nuclear meltdown. So I don't want to give our DM any ideas about that. Now that I think about it,
I actually the whole time I was like, I hope their DM is listening.
Yeah.
You need a meltdown in your world somewhere, as it must happen.
Yeah.
So
it's oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, and it has happened before. And in our lore, there's this area called the Shardlands, and it was just normal. It was forested. It was kind of plains. It was just normal sort of terrain. And then there was an Eldria infestation there, and the whole thing is just basically Eldria now. It's full of Eldritch creatures. If you're just a mortal, air-breathing person, you can't really go there. You will die or become a crazy Eldritch person, like the faceted ones that'll warp your body. So once it gets out of control, it is a very bad substance. Yeah, they like to use the example of Tiberium when they talk about it, Brad and Joe. I've never played those games, but that's kind of the vibe that they had with it, I think.
Pokemon, I've not played that either. Pokemon
Yeah.
for what? What creature in this are you most excited for? Always happy to see more Pathfinder support.
What creature am I most excited about? Pathfinder-wise? Or what exactly was that question?
Yeah, what creature are you most... They're excited that you guys are supporting Pathfinder.
Oh, yeah.
But they want to know what creature you're most excited for.
I really like the Arava. So the Arava, it's a Fey squirrel, and it kind of looks like a flying squirrel. It's got little wings. It has a Fey teleport. And my thought is that would be a really, really cool familiar or a companion animal. And in my own game, it's actually a creature I created probably about 8 years ago. I had this character, and I wanted her to have this cute little Fey squirrel kind of companion. And so that character is an NPC in the book, and she's named, and that campaign ended up being entirely canon. But that Fey squirrel is one that I created, and it was her companion throughout the whole game, and I love it. So I'm really happy to see that as a creature that's been statted and illustrated, and that we're kind of putting out there for everybody.
Well, it speaks to your GM, too, that their willingness to take one of the things that you want as a player and put it in a game for your character.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Sorry.
It's okay. Just recently, we kind of went on an adventure to like obtain weapons to go to hell with. And my son plays in that game, and he plays his character kind of like an Ash Ketchum.
Oh wow, okay.
So yeah, so we are all looking for uber weapons to go to hell with, and he comes away with a pug with 4 dragonfly wings.
That's amazing. So I'm not gonna lie, the characters that I usually play are usually animal collectors and pet collectors. And if I have, a Pegasus mount or something, I'm like, when I go to the market, I want to buy like crystals and tassels and ribbons to braid in its mane, and I don't like spend my money on normal things. And I'm usually that annoying person at the table. But with my current Saturday character, she's evil, and she's not so happy about the little creatures and things like that. So that's been tough for me to curb personally, because I just want to adopt everything, but my character does not.
So you're on the opposite end of the spectrum. In my one game, when my paladin has an Arak as her mount, named Arun, and she always describes him with like bells and chimes and all kinds of jewelry and bling on him. And every time she would dismiss him, the bling would all stay behind. So he just leave this, this pile of trinkets, when he would get dismissed.
That's really awesome. I think that cute, not even cute, but just cool companions and cool mounts can really add a lot of flavor to the game, and people might not realize that. In our Saturday game, we had this horse, and it was named Rosnod. And this horse ended up being like the focus of our campaign in a way. Like we were, casting Speak with Animal on it to converse with him, and he was just like a badass. He had been a war horse on one of the most famous sort of battlefields, like in the most recent war that we had, and he ended up dying. I mean, spoiler alert, but he kind of got exploded. And so it's one of our party's dreams to resurrect the horse somehow. Hasn't been done yet, but we want to bring a Rosnod back because he is our fearless leader, and he's a horse. So
that's funny.
Yeah.
Slats. Collect animals, make chimeras, rinse, repeat.
Yes. That's kind of scary. That's a little scary. Thinking about making some of our creatures different chimeras and meshing them together.
We recently had one of our writers do an article. I want to name the writer, but I'm afraid I'm going to say the wrong person. There's so many people that write over there. But he did an article on creating random chimeras.
Oh boy, I'd like to take a look at that.
Complete with tables to roll on.
That's really neat.
There's an app. There's a website called Chartopia, and it's basically nothing but random charts and tables where you can also make your own. So he used that and made up a bunch of random stuff. So it's a really great article. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, if you could share that, I would want to take a look at that. Sometimes it can sink being a content creator and working so hard on your own stuff that you might miss some of the really cool things that other people are doing unless someone points you in their direction. So yeah, I would love to take a look at that.
And thank you to our chief and nerd editor, Doug, for giving me the credit. Asa is the writer, and that's who I thought it was, but I was like, oh, if I say it's Asa and somebody else did it.
Then you'll have your own Justin moment.
Yeah, exactly. I have my own Justin moment.
Right.
And Doug says at randomized guy on Twitter, hit him up. He also did a randomized article on beholders as well.
Oh,
but,
cool.
Yeah, I'll get you the link. It's really cool. They're talking about Gollum Goats. They think you should bring your horse back as a Gollum horse now.
Yes. Okay, that would be really neat. Yeah, I could see that.
The adventuring party that I run for, they had recently lost an animal companion as well. They had a bull that would pull an earth sled for them, and I attacked them with like, I don't know, 60 or 80 chokers or whatever, which they mincemeat at most of them pretty handily. But when a bunch of them did get a hold of the bull, they made mincemeat out of him.
Oh no! Oh jeez. Okay. Well, rest in peace. I hope he's happy in the afterlife. So.
Well, they had a bunch of things following him around at the time. It was time to call the herd.
Yeah, I can see how it would get to that point. Definitely.
So,
oh, sorry. I just wanted to share a funny story. We were at a morgue. Our party was, and We ended up going through this deceased person's items, and our DM was kind of rolling or reading off a random table. And one of the items that he just randomly picked was it was like a war dog. So we're just like, did we just find like a puppy in the, like this dead man's like chest of items? And he's like, I guess so. So we have a puppy. Yeah, we have a war dog puppy, and that's how we found it. Was a random table.
Yeah, you know, players love that kind of stuff, and in our game we're pretty forgiving with it as well, for the most part. If you use it in combat, it becomes fair game for the GM. But most of our GMs, if you kind of if you let them drift to the back, we won't mess with them.
Yeah, that's my secret. I'm like, man, you can give me like a dragon friend, or you can give me a wormling, or you can give me something awesome, and I will be the good player that's not going to throw it back in your face. So if you give me something cool that I kind of want, and it might be overpowered, I understand the balance between wanting to give your players cool things, but not wanting it to disbalance or disrupt the game on a major level. So I think that's really neat. I like that balance. Yeah.
My son even went as far as to have my character make his pseudo dragon armor for his pseudo dragon, that from an insanely rare metal as well, mind you.
That's really cool.
From a pseudo dragon that is never going anywhere near combat.
Yeah.
So his armor is pointless.
Yeah, but that's neat. I think players really like that. I like that as a player, so.
Yeah, I do too, and as a GM, and it just becomes an extension of your character, and you know, role playing mechanics for the game, and for you to kind of like play off of. It essentially just becomes like bling for your character.
Yeah, that's really true. It just becomes sort of part of your character, not so much part of your combat utility or gear or weaponry. It's more of a character attribute than anything else.
So, in this long running campaign world you guys have been playing in, have you guys been playing the same characters, or has it been different characters?
It's been different characters. So I played a lot of games in this world, and like I said, the most recent one, it's been about a year and a half. So this is one of my more longer running campaigns. I think I've only had one that went longer than this. Generally, we try not to do a ton of one-shots. We try to do good-sized games. They don't usually go over a year, but this has been the exception to the rule. So we have been playing this one for a chunk of time now.
So it turns out, actually, it's a small world, and you guys actually didn't live very far from me, maybe 30, 45 minutes away.
Right.
Before you guys had moved into Doug's neck of the woods.
Yeah.
So is that when you guys restarted a new campaign?
We were actually in the middle of a campaign, and it was actually my big campaign, my favorite one. My character, who is a very important named NPC in the book, based on that campaign, all that ended up sort of canon and lore in the campaign setting. But no, we moved near the end of that campaign, and we ended up playing it off pretty well in character, how I kind of ended up with a whole different party of people. But we started that campaign in New Jersey, and that campaign ended in Ohio. So it was really weird how that ended up working out.
And what was that character?
That's Evie, and that's my handle on Twitter, and my handle on Twitch, and my handle on a lot of things. But her name's Evie, and she is the leader of one of the nations, the one that's kind of like my baby that no one's allowed to touch. And that's why it's sort of mine, is I played this whole huge campaign there, and and it ended up, it's sort of where my heart is.
And what was Evie, other than your alter ego?
She's a scion. So she's a good scion, and she's one of our races. She's an Amorai, so she's sort of like a psionic humanoid type deal. But we have spotlights, and they're in the campaign setting, and I can link the article on the Amorai. But yeah, that's what she was. She was a scion.
How prevalent is psionics in the world then?
I wouldn't say it's overly prevalent. So the nation that the Amorai primarily reside on, it's called Silurai, and that's the one it's my heart. But it's like an island, and it's kind of off to the west, and they had a really hard time over the course of their history getting onto the mainland. They got into a bunch of wars. They got sort of shunted off over and over, and so they did their own thing for a very long period of time. So they've ventured into the world. They're prominent, as prominent as any of the races are. It's not like they're necessarily rare to see, but for the most part, they mostly live over there. And you can find psionics, and anyone can be psionic. It's not like it's a thing that's reserved to them. They have a natural inclination towards it. But I would say it's decently prevalent. And for those who don't like the psionic rules, we do have alternate rules and alternate stats for the Amorai in the campaign setting and player's guide.
So do their alternate rules kind of just turn it into another magic?
Kind of. It changes the natural abilities that they get. And instead of, I think like they get a different bone, or maybe they get Iron Will as a feat instead, or something like that. So it's more geared towards, they do have like the mental abilities and the mental prowess, but it's less psionic specific abilities.
So how is it going to be addressed moving into 5e with that stuff?
We do have the races converted for them. 5e and Pathfinder rules were in both of those books in 2015. And I don't know how challenging it really was to convert that. That was more Joe's speed and Joe's deal. But we did a great deal of play testing, and I think that we struck a decent balance. So, and we try to be pretty rules light. We have the 5 races of ours, but other than that, we don't put a lot of crunch. The campaign setting is 280 pages of lore and then 20 or so pages of rules. So apart from the rules that we've absolutely needed to create, we've tried to be very lore heavy and rules light. And we'd like to introduce more supplements and get more crunch heavy on specific items and things like that. But if you're just jumping into the world and making an Amorai character in our world, or making any of our other races, those stats exist, but it's not overbearing or anything like that.
So did you guys, for 5e, did you guys create a psionic class then? Because they don't really exist yet?
No class, we haven't. It's just the race. And I can't think off the top of my head what the abilities they get. I think it's less hard psionics. I think it might just be more, they have the higher end. They might have some things that kind of boost innate magical abilities or mental prowess, things like that. I'd have to ask Joe or look at that. I haven't made a 5e character apart from that warlock in a little while now, so.
That's fine. Are you guys going to do anything with the lore and story for warlocks? I mean, of 5e, like that's probably the most thematic class. And if you have your own campaign setting, I would think that's some of the places where you can really tie in to the world.
So we do have a lot of cool lore with tieflings that I think is neat. We do kind of make spins on things like that. And then with this most recent war with the Shattered Hand and these armies of Vastborn and fiends and devils and demons and all sorts of horrible things, I think that there's a lot of really cool lore potential for having weird patrons, for getting power from these different power sources. Yeah, and my character on Monday, she's a celestial warlock. So her patron is a unicorn, and it's been really neat to kind of play up a patron that's not sort of doom and gloom and kind of falling into that typical boat there. So I think that's been neat. Yeah.
I have to agree, and that's always been like one of the things about the 5e warlock is like they're all like either really creepy or dark, yeah. And it's nice that now we're getting some options that are a little more a little good guy friendly. I mean, we like to run good campaigns for the most part and play with heroes. Not a huge fan of evil games. Maybe in my like very early 20s, late teens, when it was more angsty, but now it's like, the world itself is dark and gritty enough. Let's have some heroes.
Yeah, that's usually how I am. I usually play like good characters that worship the good gods, and they're kind of more bubbly or fluffy and like collecting cute things and stuff like that. So I am playing that evil character on Saturday, and it's my first evil character probably since I've been playing, probably in the full almost 10 years now. And it's been a really weird shift of perspective. But I'm trying not to be like evil stupid. I'd like to think I'm evil smart. I can work in a party that has good members. So it's an interesting dynamic with the rest of the group because they're not all evil either. It's kind of just me on Evil Island alone.
It'll be interesting for your fiance as well to learn some things about you before they fully commit and be like, oh, wait a minute, there's a side I didn't know about. Maybe I better watch that and not piss her off.
Yeah, we had an NPC who is sort of possessed by a magical ring. And my character's solution after trying to think of how we were going to save this person, how we were going to interact with this person, is I was just going to cut their hand off. Just, we're just going to slice it off at the source. And I ended up nat 20ing that check. So we managed to save the hand and just cut off the finger. But it was fun. It was fun to be able to say, you know what, my character's just going to cut her hand off, and that's just how we're going to solve this problem. So,
Problem solved. Mike wants to know, I would like to know if her phase squirrel befriended a phase moose.
No, I don't think it did.
I'm just guessing Mike is someone you know.
Yeah, maybe.
Mike
Gosh.
Amarine. Amarine? Maybe. But it seems like a very specific question.
It does. And I actually did have a character that had an elk as her mount. So I was thinking maybe, but no, this was like years apart, completely different characters and stuff like that. So, but I have had the little squirrel companion, and I did have an elk mount, which is sort of like a moose, I guess, later on, years later. So yeah, they're both really cool animals.
So phase squirrels are your flying squirrels that teleport?
Yeah, yeah. They're called the Arava, and I think that there's a big picture of one. If it's not in the body of the campaign setting, it's definitely, I want to say, in one of the updates. But I can share that on social media again too. They're really cool.
Nice.
So, yeah.
So,
and they're blue, and they've got little wings, and they're adorable.
So how many days do we have left on the Kickstarter?
We have 8, I believe. So it does seem like there's a lot to go there. But the Kickstarter trend is really weird in how the bulk of the funding happens very near to the end. And we sort of had the same experience with the first one. So I'm not sweating bullets or anything like that. And even if we didn't necessarily hit with the print in this initial goal, we do have another plan for relaunching and maybe just focusing on the PDFs first and making print just the stretch goal instead of baked into the initial goal. So that's kind of where we're at with the Kickstarter, but wanted to share it, wanted to definitely get that out there. And the next few days will be really telling based on how that trend with Kickstarters usually go. If you don't fund day one, it's weird the way it tends to sort of be slowish, and at the end it just like spikes. So Kickstarter's weird like that. Yeah.
Well, we're hoping to get some more love out there. I know we backed it this morning, so guys, if you want to go check out, if you want more monsters in your world, go check it out. I like the art; it's nice and colorful, and you guys have some interesting things over there. Seems to be a lot of like elemental flavored monsters.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and that's just a small sampling. Our artists are working; he's working really hard to get it all complete there. There's a lot more coming out, and he's really good with color. I really love having color in art and having color in these creatures. So I think that they're really neat. Yeah, I'm really proud of them.
Do you have a favorite illustration?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I do like the Frostfire Phoenix, and if you look at the collage of creatures, he's kind of up near the top. He's neat. I do like the Ornable Drake, the one sample page that I put in there. I picked those pages, and I picked art pieces that I really like when we do the samples. I like the Wormling Dragon, the little one that's like kind of busting out of the egg. It's hard. I love them all, and we all have our own favorites. So it's neat.
It is tough when you're creating stuff. It's like you have to pick your favorite child.
Yeah, it is challenging, and they're not all complete yet. We're still getting these updates every day from the artists. So every day it's like Christmas to kind of jump into the chat that we have with Crystal, the main artist for the book here, and to see what he's working on and what he's coming up with for these creatures.
I imagine you end up having a lot of new favorites. Yeah,
it changes. I would say probably day to day it might even change. So, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I definitely love creating creatures. I definitely think it's neat, and a lot of these, yeah. I think they're fun to fight. We've been doing a lot of play testing against them on Twitch, and then over here at our house where we all sort of get together and play. And some of them have really cool abilities, and they're great fun fights. So are you guys doing like arena style fights, or are you just running like mini one-shot adventures? We've been kind of doing, I would say, arena style, sort of Fields of White Grain. So you just make random characters. He'll be like, make a party of level 12s. And we do that, and then we all get together, and we might get a few sentence backstory of, well, you're on your way to this town, and you're in a forest, and you come across these creatures. These things attack you. So we try to put the creatures in terrain and an environment that you would find them in, to kind of see how they interact with the different rules there regarding different terrain and things like that. But yeah, so we just kind of fight them, and then on to the next one. Same characters, kind of refresh back to square one here. And we try to do a few of those every time we play test. So
have you had any unexpected encounters where it totally went different than the players or the GM expected for the monster, where you're like, oh, we need to either rein this back or beef this up or whatever the case was?
yeah, so initially, and I can't remember what creature it was, we did a play test where the math on their attacks was wrong, like by a lot. Like clearly one of the numbers had just been imposed the wrong way, or maybe it was flipped or something like that, but the mod was off, so all their attacks were just tearing us to pieces. And we got out of the fight, and Brad was like, oh no, that monster, I mean, that was entirely wrong, that's not what that was supposed to be. And I'm like, thank God, because that killed us all. It was horrible. And then another fight that we had that I really liked is the Axolotl. And we've shared his art all over Twitter and things like that, and he's really cute, but he has a charm person ability. And he kept charming me in our playtest. I don't even think I hit him. I mean, he's just like, I was in love with this thing. I just wanted to kind of get into the swamp with him and live with him. And it was a lot of fun. It was hilarious. So, and then the wine sprites, they're like the little drunk grape looking things. They're kind of like sprites, and they have an inebriate ability. So if you're fighting them, they can make your character drunk just in combat, and then it's fun. They can confuse you. It's sort of like a drunk play. So
we created something similar to that. I mean, the monster is completely different conceptually, but we created something called a Ooze.
Yeah.
And so there were oozes that are made of different alcohols, and same thing, you know, their touch attacks would inebriate, so you'd have to make saving throws. So we made up like rules for getting drunk for 5e, kind of modeled off of the exhaustion. But you know, it's kind of fun. We put together some encounters and some adventures with those guys, and then we came up with the idea that, you know, like most oozes, they can eat through most stuff. So we want to do a tavern run and owned by dwarves, where like you basically rent you rent tables, and there's these bowl-shaped stone tables, and the patrons get wasted by playing with the boozers, the little boozers that are in the table bowls.
That's really cool. That's really neat lore-wise.
So yeah, so we, you know, making monsters is fun. You know, playing RPGs is fun. So we are up on the hour. So it looks like the second half of the stream went much better than the first half.
I'd say.
and you know, guys, go check it out. Go back to project. Nerdarchy has definitely jumped in on this. We can always use more monsters. More monsters are fun. And if you guys want to come back in the future, feel free. I feel bad about borking the stream on you guys.
Oh, it's not your fault. That's fine. But, and I'm sure that, you know, they're members of our team. I'd love to send your way and have them sit down and chat with you. I think they'd have a great time. So.
Well, and we will be in your neck of the woods next month. So if you guys want to hang out, we can make that happen.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Yeah, I think that would definitely be possible. So I'd like to meet Doug. I assume you'll be there with Doug, the one that I spoke with before. So that would be cool.
We'll be there in force. A couple of the writers will be there. Doug's going to be there. My partners, Ted and Nathan, will be there. So with that, guys, until next time, stay nerdy. Thanks for hanging out with us, and thanks for coming back.
Thanks.